Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We've got a ton going on here at Spirit Blade Productions and Christian Geek Central, including our in-depth Bible study for geeks, movie, game, and other entertainment reviews or commentary, live streams, Christian geek news, original audio dramas, and tons more. And on top of all that, you can become a Spirit Blade insider with an influential voice and get access to exclusive content and rewards. It's your involvement as a patron that will keep all of this going and growing, so I want to thank you for your consideration in that. For more information, please check out our Patreon page through the link below at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Thanks for listening. Oh, is it 386, Tim? Okay. Ironic name says, I've always wanted a game called Santa Claus Zombie Elf Slayer. Alright, so I think I am going to have to use that warp scroll to get back up there. Let's go to the golden thing on the left. Oh, dang! Oh, dang it! I was looking at the chat. Whew. Nice. Love that feeling. I've always wanted, like, in a paper and pencil role-playing game, you know, for the leveling up process to be, like, factored into the game itself. You ever notice that in paper and pencil role-playing games? When you level up, that's the point where you get to, like, choose new skills for your character. Maybe they get a boost in health. It just happens instantly in that moment. But that's not really recognized as part of the game story. And I think it would be cool if there was a paper and pencil role-playing game. You know, I think it would work really well with, say, like a Highlander role-playing game, you know, or maybe, but then you'd only level up when you take somebody's head. But anyway, I think of something like that should be happening. Like when somebody, like, levels up, at the moment they level up in the game and they, you know, get all that stuff boosted, like in the context of the game story, suddenly, you know, they get some kind of surge of power and knowledge or whatever, you know. Let's see here. I don't know, some of you guys are more active paper and pencil role players than I am, so maybe you know of a game already that does that. Man, I have such fondness for paper and pencil RPGs. They just, they just take a lot of time. But I think that would probably be the hobby that I would gravitate toward, you know, if we got into a place at some point where financially we were just kind of really hurting. I think I would totally fall back on that. That was such a great hobby for me, like during my college years when I didn't have money to spend on stuff, but I had time, baby. And I could, you know, buy some supplements and things now and then, but used, you know. And I spent a ton of time making my own adventures. I've got, like, back on my bookshelf, I'll probably get to it eventually in my bookshelf tour video series. I've got a huge folder, as so many paper and pencil game masters have, I'm sure, filled with notes of these adventures I created. In my case, it was for the DC Heroes paper and pencil RPG by Mayfair Games, which that's still my preferred system. It's so adaptable to so many different genres. I mean, I used that to run a Matrix game. I used it to run kind of like a sliders type game where you could basically be a character from any movie or source of fiction you could think of. Let's see, I gotta go down and left. Is that it? No, because that was just the room with the guy in it, right? Oh, no. Okay. Okay, yeah, this is where I want to be. And I want to go to that other one, which was where? Was it here? Yeah, okay. All right, 386, huh? Three, 8, 6. Here we go. Oh, crap! It didn't work. Let's see here. I missed the beginning of that topic, Tim, so I don't know if you're talking to Francisco or you're talking to me when you say you need to play a game with me. That would be fun to make that happen. I know we've kind of talked about the idea. Francisco Ruiz says, sorry I didn't contribute to a CGC podcast for you, Peter. Totally don't worry about it. That was something that I just kind of put out there for some people that might be interested. I was going to mention this. I'll probably plug this when I get closer to Thanksgiving, since I'll be taking that week off also. But our church just started a podcast that I'm the main host for, with a rotating co-host each month. It's a monthly podcast that's going to be one of the pastors on our staff. And it's just kind of a conversational series where each time we interview a different person that's just kind of been in our church community for a while, just hearing some of the stories that people have and what faith looks like for them in their context. You know, what is it like for someone, like the first person that we interviewed is a guy on our worship team who's been involved in the ministry for years. He's probably about maybe 10 years younger than me or so, who grew up in the Mormon faith and then became a Christian like toward the end of high school or early college, and now he's kind of married and has a kid and more kind of settled into life, and so we just had him on to say, yeah, what's your perspective, on the experiences you had growing up, and how did you move from that to a Bible-based faith in Christ, and so that was a really interesting conversation. Next time we're going to talk to somebody who's just like part of the older generation. I wanted to talk to somebody that is kind of in that season of life, but their health hasn't failed yet to the point where it would be, difficult for them to be an interview subject. And we're also going to have somebody on to talk about what it's like to just live an intentional life in Christ in the midst of a job that you hate, and so it's not a nerdy podcast by any stretch, but it's hosted by a nerd. And this last time, the first episode we did was co-hosted by our junior high pastor, and so Fortnite became a topic of conversation in the middle of all that. And and if your week just wouldn't feel right without hearing me blah, 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 blah in your ear a little bit, then you can always, as a backup, go to iTunes and just search Living Stones Red Mountain. Red Mountain Community Church is the name of my church. The podcast is called Living Stones Podcast. So Living Stones Red Mountain on iTunes, and you should be able to find it. Oh, that's right. So I just fell down that thing, and I don't know why. All right. I'm going to save and be done then. I don't want to puzzle over. Well, let's see. Let's go up and right and see why I couldn't get into that room before. Or maybe I didn't try. I don't know. Oh, no. I need to go up in there. Ah, dang it. Jeez. Ah! Dang it! Alright, let's see here. Oh, dang it! Crap. Alright, up and right. Up and right. Oh, wait a minute, we did this. Can I... Yeah. Was there an access point up top here? Oh, crap, okay, I gotta do this dumb thing again to find out. Oh, no, there's not. Okay. Well... Okay, I'm gonna head back and save and then move on to a different game. Oh! Let's see here. Ironic Name says, Pater, I think it would be funny if you played bad Christian games like the Bible Man video game or the Left Behind games. Oh, man. Yeah, I would have some mixed feelings about that. I mean, I think there would be some humor that could definitely come out of that. I don't know if I would want to... I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I usually try to avoid playing games and movies that I don't feel like I at least have a shot of enjoying, just because I don't want to just be, you know, have like content that's really negative and stuff. And I think there are ways that you could do that kind of content without it being mean-spirited, you know. But I think I would just err on the side of caution and not do that kind of content. But yeah, I'm sure there's some funny stuff that could come out of that. Where am I going? Am I gonna have to... No, down and left. Down and left. Okay. Oof. I didn't know there was a Bible Man video game. I knew there was a Left Behind video game. Did not know there was a Bible Man video game. Whew. Oh, can I go up here? I haven't gone up here yet. What's this? Ah. Hey, look at that! Well, now I found this new area, I want to explore a little bit more. Oof. Oh! Wait, didn't I save this guy? What is this? I don't understand. Didn't get to him in time? Is that it? Pocket watch. What does a pocket watch do? A pocket watch describing the name Felix Farron. No, it's not an accessory. Alright. Weird. Oof. Man, lots of close jumps here. Oh, nice. Nice. Okay. So it's... Oh, look at that! Look at that! Okay, the numbers were right, but look at the symbols. There were 3 stars. There were 6 nights. Right? 3 stars, 8 nights, and 6... Okay. 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 And 6 of these. Alright, this has got to work. Yeah! Alright! Staying with Chasm a bit longer, kids. Francisco asks, speaking of Left Behind, Peter, do you know of any YouTube videos or podcasts discussing views of the millennium? No. The only one I can think of would be the Defenders podcast put out by William Lane Craig of Reasonable Faith, which is either a .org or a .com, I can't remember. If you search Reasonable Faith, you'll find it. But the Defenders podcast is his weekly Sunday school class that he teaches at his church, and then they record it as a podcast, both in audio and video format. And that, it's a little bit misnamed. He's got 2 podcasts. He's got the Reasonable Faith podcast and the Defenders podcast. The Reasonable Faith podcast is shorter each episode on average than the Defenders, and it deals with topical issues related to his work in apologetics. Philosophical and apologetic kind of issues related to the faith. Just on a topic-by-topic basis, changes week to week. The Defenders class is basically a systematic theology class, which goes through incorporating philosophy and good, like learning to think really logically and understand how to infer things and to deduce things based on, available information. And he takes you through all the major doctrines of Christianity, the different positions on those doctrines, and he presents them so fairly. In fact, I even heard him say on a recent podcast of his that I listened to that, like, someone criticized him at his church a little bit. Like, they're like, Bill, you're being so fair with these others that, other people might find them appealing, and he says, well, I'm trying to be as fair as I can be, and I do, after presenting all of them, let you know where I land on the issue. But he very respectfully and fairly, I think, represents multiple views on issues of the atonement, on issues of the nature of man, the nature of God. I mean, all these kind of major touchstone doctrine type things. And then he does have a section on the last things, which would be about the millennium, what that is, what that entails. There are different views on that. And related to that, he does a section on Revelation, which he's not talking about the book Revelation, but about the concept of God revealing himself to humanity, how he does that both through nature and through special revelation like Scripture. So he's through those 2 things that he presents, like how God reveals himself, how we ought to go about looking at and interpreting the Bible and understanding what this document or set of documents is. Getting a grip on that, and then what he has to say about the last times, the last things, would I think definitely cover the different ways that you can look at the millennium, and so anyway, and I think he, in almost every instance that I've listened to him, he comes down in a place that I would agree with. There's been like some really nitpicky stuff that I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm with you there, Bill, but I want to ask you some questions. So I'm actually listening to his entire run of the Reasonable Faith podcast, which again, I think it's backwards. I think Reasonable Faith should be the one where he talks about the doctrines, of the church, and Defenders should be the one that's more about dealing with the apologetic side of things, but it's kind of named backwards. Defenders is the theological Sunday school class. Reasonable Faith is the topical apologetics, thing. But anyway, I lost my train of thought there. Anyway, oh yeah. I'm listening to the entire run of his Reasonable Faith podcast so that I can see if he answers my question anywhere, because they tend to favor reading questions on the show that have not been covered a lot already, even though they still do end up covering, answering some of the same questions again and again. But I want to make sure he hasn't answered it somewhere else in his work. They prefer that you be familiar with his work, both online debates and podcasts, but also his written work. So, oh my gosh! Oh, mini boss. Anyway, oh my gosh. Okay, so the red light doesn't hurt me. Finally. Okay, so he wasn't quite a mini-boss. He was a tough bugger, though. No ironic name. Sorry, I haven't watched Daredevil yet. It's kind of on my bucket list, but it's kind of low on the list. Yeah, I'm not. I don't remember, Nathan, what it is that you're talking about. As far as like Craig falling into the genetic fallacy on the Rapture. Yeah, the genetic fallacy. I'm trying to remember. That's where you, correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan, that's where you make the mistake of criticizing a view because of where it originated from. But regardless of where a view originates from, doesn't make that view less true or false. Like if someone were to say, well, Peter, you're just a Christian because you were raised in a Christian home. And so that would be making the mistake of thinking that just because of how my belief in Christ originated, that invalidates the reasonableness of my belief in some way, or the truthfulness, maybe I should say, of my belief. That's what I think the genetic fallacy refers to, but maybe I'm mistaken on that. So nothing's coming to mind about how Craig might have wound up doing that, so you'd have to refresh my memory. I tend, though, to really appreciate him more, as an apologist. He's really... I think he does have some kind of like theology degree, and he certainly is a theologian, but he's more of a philosopher and an apologist than he is a theologian. Where I want to ask him questions on is his view of time. Because there are two views of time. There's the what's typically called like the A theory of time, where time basically, like the future does not exist, and the past does not exist. That things come into being and go out of being. Whereas the B theory of time, which is really perpetuated by science fiction. I think all science fiction uses the B theory of time when it comes to time travel. And it's also perpetuated by, I think, some of those in the scientific community, because thinking of time as like a linear plane makes it easier to visualize when you're applying like mathematical equations to it. And so I think when people talk about time on a scientific or mathematical level, they'll often kind of be portraying it, but the equations, as I understand, still all hold up regardless of whether or not you take a B theory or an A theory. And so under the B theory of time, you know, we could visit the future because the future exists. We could go there and then come back to the past. But on the A theory, you know, the future doesn't exist. And I think for most of my life, since I started thinking about the issue of time, I gravitated toward the B theory, probably largely because that's how science fiction presented time, you know. But really the more natural and intuitive way to think about time is the A theory. But what I want to know is, like, the question I want to ask William Lane Craig is, where do choices come from? And how can God, because he doesn't make the mistake that some people do who would take the A theory. Some people would go so far as to say that, yeah, the future doesn't exist and God doesn't know the future. But Craig says God does know the future. And so my thinking is, on the A theory of time, how could God know the future if it doesn't exist? And he can't, you know, look forward to it. And on a recent podcast, he clarified, well, we need to understand that God does not, his knowledge is not propositional. He doesn't, you know, look ahead and see this thing like this such and such is true on this date. You know, that we kind of, we organize our thoughts that way and divide them up into propositions, but God knows all things intuitively. So there's just like some things I haven't wrapped my head around yet, and questions I want to ask, but I find his work on time fascinating, and the jury is still way out for me. I think there's definitely a part of me that would like to adopt the A theory of time, because I have, for as long as I can remember, and it's lessened as I've gotten older, but I have fear of the unknown, and that hasn't lessened, but specifically fear of eternity and the concept of me existing forever has been intimidating, at least, and sometimes like unsettling to me. And it's less unsettling to me if I think about the idea that I will exist in a never-ceasing now, if that makes sense, rather than existing for an infinite number of days. And Craig would maintain that you cannot have an actual infinite number of things. You can only have a potential infinite number of things. And maybe that's where my mind is just kind of getting freaked out. I'm trying to comprehend living for an infinite number of days, and I can't get there, and so it's freaky and weird and unknown. Whereas if I think of time as like an ever-progressing now, I can wrap my head a little more easily around the idea that I will exist in a never-ceasing now. Anyway, I've totally went into the off-the-rails philosophical space, but... I'm missing some of this. Sorry, guys. But Nathan, you said something that he rejects the rapture because he tracks it to a pastor in the 19th century. We might be talking I don't know if you're talking about William Lane Craig or not. The last time I listened to maybe that's something he wrote a long time ago and his view has changed, but that is not what I heard him say the last time I went through his Defender's curriculum, which he updates about every 2 or 3 years, I want to say, and goes through it all again. But that does not sound familiar to me at all. But I'm with you. I love Dr. Craig, even when I am like, I'm not sure if I'm with you on that. And I wouldn't hesitate to recommend him to anyone. he is not going to be leading anybody into heresy. I think by far the reverse. Okay, ironic name, you bring up something interesting. Ironic name says, I imagine that maybe God would know how we would act and what we would do in certain situations, so maybe he knows the future in that way. And Craig would say, yes, that God has what's called middle knowledge. He knows what we would be true. And there's this whole realm of like counterfactuals, which is like, I'm still wrapping my head around. I've listened to episodes where he talks about it, and I still haven't quite nailed it well enough in my mind that I could rattle it off to you right now. But so my question is, okay, sorry, I gotta pause this for a second here. My question is, that works in my mind if the mechanism of our choices is completely predictable. For example, if I'm driving my car down the street, I know that if I turn the wheel this much to the left, I will execute a left turn. That is what's going to happen because of how the car is made. Turning this wheel turns a thing in here, does this thing in here, and then, all that click, 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 turns my wheels, makes the car move to the left, right? So, but that's like all cause and effect stuff. And Craig would say, no, we are not just cause and effect machines, that humans have actual free will. And so my question is, where do choices come from? What is the nature of choice? What ultimately is the deciding factor after all the influences have been factored in? That moment where it's actually the choice is made, where you can choose despite your influences, either A or B, but yet you choose one of them. What is the ultimately zoomed in thing that, and maybe that's just a mystery. Sometimes I think of it as that's the one way in which we as people mirror God's nature and his ability to create out of nothing. I wonder, because ultimately that choice, we just make this choice. We make a choice. I don't understand choice. And, so if God could know what we would do given certain circumstances, and that's usually how Craig talks about it, I'm like, well, by what means could God know that? If the future doesn't exist and he can't look forward to the future and see what we will choose through his foreknowledge, and we are not merely cause and effect machines whose actions and can be predicted based on various circumstances, how ultimately can God know? By what means? And maybe that's not a question that needs to be answered in order for the view that he holds to be coherent and logical. But I really want to hear his response to it. So that's what as I jog just about every day, I have William Lane Craig in my ears, getting slowly caught up on 5+ years, however long he's been doing the Reasonable Faith podcast, to make sure that my question hasn't been answered. And then when I get caught up, I'm in 2015 right now. When I get caught up to where he's at, then I'm going to ask my question, and hopefully it'll get read on the show, or at least responded to in some way so that I can hear his thoughts on it. All right. Okay. Thank you to anyone who was totally bored by that whole topic. Thank you for your patience. Oh, this is an entrance to a boss fight. That's what that means. So, did I just save my game? And what's the nearest teleport? I guess a straight shot all the way over there. So I'll try this boss fight once. But if I can't pull it off, then I'll move on to a different game and just level grind on this later on. Alright. Oh boy. Ugh. Oh, crap! Ugh! Oops, dang it! Oh, what are those? Oh, not quite. Ugh! Jeez. Oh! Oof. Ah! 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 Jeez. All right, I gotta. Ugh. All right. Oh, jumped too soon. Dang it. Oof. Ah, I hate those things. Is he dying? Is that him dying? Tell me that's... Yeah! Yeah, baby! All right. Well, I'm glad you guys were on board with that. I do think that, you know, that many geeks are more likely to find that kind of thing interesting because it ties into the way a lot of our minds work, where we're asking questions about the fantastical genres, especially like science fiction, but also fantasy, superhero stuff. They deal with these kind of deeper what ifs and like, I wonder how this works, or we just ask these questions and we wonder about things. And so I think that part of our minds can really function well when dealing with some of these deeper questions of the nature of life and faith and God and reality, and those things do ultimately, I think come home to a place that's relevant to day-to-day life. You know, here I'm talking about all this abstract stuff about the nature of time and how does it all work and stuff, and it does come down to something that is relevant to my experience, that namely being afraid of the unknown and afraid specifically of eternity, and like being weirded out by that concept, and I think sometimes getting a better grasp on the nature of God can help us understand who He is. Like if you have a wrong view of God, you can see Him as either limited and incapable of really being useful to you, loving to you, worthy of worship, or if you have a view of him that kind of like maybe emphasizes some of his divine attributes, but specifically kind of like de-emphasizes some of his personal attributes, which are also divine. I don't mean to separate them like that. You know, you can wind up with a view of God that makes him seem distant and cold and just utterly alien. And so I think these questions about the nature of God that can seem very academic, they do ultimately have relevance to how we make our way through the grind of day-to-day life. You know, they affect our view of God. Oh, okay. So, what now? Oh. So these are like... Now I found 2 new levels. Oh, geez, okay. Oh, man! 8:42 already! It's gonna be time for, donor requests soon. Man, I haven't been warming up my voice or anything, I've just been talking. Not that I'm aiming for the song I'm going to sing today to be particularly beautiful. It should be fun, though. Alright, well, I think I want to change it up for a little bit. Let's do some... let's do some Dragon Quest XI. Blah, 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 blah. I do not play this game for the story. Not even a little bit. I play it despite the story. Or maybe I should say despite the characters. It's very silly anime vibe, which is just not my thing at all. But the gameplay I really like. Especially since going back, you know, when I did my review of this, I played it on just normal mode. And it was surprisingly easy. But they have these options you can go in to make the game more difficult, and so... And you have a lot of different ways you can manipulate the game to make it more difficult, and I specifically chose to just make the monsters stronger. And since doing that and starting the game over, because you have to start the whole game over to put those in effect, since doing that, it has felt like the kind of Dragon Quest experience I'm used to. Tim O'Donnell asks, have you played Detroit Become Human yet? I haven't. That kind of falls into the category of... I try to only review and like play games that I think I have a chance at enjoying, I really don't think I would enjoy that one, just based on let's see here. I could tell from the marketing materials, without even looking at reviews, that they were going to be presenting this game as like treating AI as persons who are just as valuable as real people. The creator of the game said that in the interview. You know, he said, "Boy, there's lots of stories about AI being evil and stuff," and actually when he said that, I was like, really? I mean, you've got like Short Circuit. What's the one that's kind of like Short Circuit? Chappie. I mean, there's a number of like AI movies, both in the past and more recently. iRobot, I think, has some of that. Where Star Wars, where robots are these sympathetic characters, and they're thought of by the audience. They're supposed to be thought of as people and having just as much value and worth as real human beings. You know. So, and I just can't buy into that. I can't buy into that. So I didn't want to spend a whole game where they're trying to make me feel bad for not caring about a bunch of toasters that really convincingly simulate human life. But I have no problems with anybody who is able to suspend disbelief and put that aside and just enjoy the experience, you know. Good on them. Okay, Francisco Ruiz says, okay, here's my concern with eternity. If we are going to have work to do, but there will be no challenges to overcome in making it because the curse is gone, how will accomplishing the work be satisfying without hardship? Okay. I'd say it's going to be satisfying because there's an assumption there that I don't think is necessarily going to be the case. You say if we're going to have work to do, but there will be no challenges to overcome in making it because the curse is gone. I don't think that challenge and overcoming things is necessarily bad. After all, we like some degree of challenge in our games. We like being faced with problems to solve and things to apply that test our skills on some level, whether it's hand-eye coordination or thinking, strategic skills, or something like that. I think that we will absolutely... I don't want to say absolutely. That's going way too far off from the biblical text, but I think that logically we could say that it is totally compatible to have work that is challenging and has obstacles to overcome that is not frustrating. I think frustration is where things is more what the curse brought to work. Frustration and a lack of fruitfulness, a diminishing of fruitfulness. That's my thinking on how that could totally work. Yeah, I'm reading both Tim's and Ironic Name's thoughts on Detroit Become Human. And yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just not for me. No, let's do spells, and then there we go. Tim O'Donnell says, Eternity will be all about timed and stealth missions. Oh, man. Well, I believe that God could somehow create tasks with time limitations that I would not find frustrating. All right. Boy. What am I doing here? Losing it, Pater. You're losing it. Oh, Eric's health is down. Crap. Oh, and I forgot to give them I've got to give those support characters some medicinal herbs. Otherwise, Eric's gonna kick the bucket here. Alright, let's see. Boy, here it comes. Oh no, wait, that's me, that's fine. There we go, good. Made it. Hi, Kajakana, if that's how you pronounce that screen name. Welcome, welcome. And yeah, I believe that's correct, that that there were things that they were tending to in the garden, Adam and Eve, before sin. Let's see here. By the way, ironic name and Kajakana. Have I interacted with you elsewhere? Like in the YouTube comments, or have you been on the forums at Christian Geek Central under a different name or something like that? I always like to see new usernames, and if I have interacted with you before, I like to know that. But welcome either way. Let's see here. No, let's do this and this and this. Let's try this one. Crack! That was alright. Oh man, you guys, I bought some Quick Trip donuts. I'm gonna have 2 of them after I'm done with the donor requests fulfillment. Ironic name says probably in the YouTube comments and other streams. Yeah, your username does sound just a little bit familiar. And then Kajakana says probably I've listened to your podcast a lot. Oh, okay, cool. Well, thank you. Let's see here. No, let's do Flame Slash. Alright, bye-bye, Francisco. Thanks for coming by. I look forward to tonight. Alright. That took a little while. How are we doing on magic, everybody? Good? Alright, let's do another one of these. Oh, let's heal first. Oh, and I want to get those, let's get some items. Transfer to Raka. Can I put 20 in her sack? Oh, awesome. Okay, just 9, I guess. And 4. Alright. Feel much better about that. Right now in this game, I'm just kind of grinding a little bit to get ready for... I'm going to... Where am I even going? Head for the Sultan's Palace in the city of Gallipolis. Yeah, okay, so I'm hanging out outside the city. I've played this part of the game before, and I know that once I get into the city, there's like some bigger events that I won't have as much opportunity to grind, and so I want to be ready for them as best I can by grinding a little bit outside the city here. Oh man, that's a lot of chimeras. Jeez. Ooh, this could go really bad for me. Gosh. Let's try this one, I guess. Ouch. Ooh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, let me see if I can finish this fight. Gosh. Huh. Nice. Ow! Ugh. Nice. Okay. Nice. Well, that might have been the wrong move. She's hurting. Let's have her do one of these. Kajakana says, I really enjoyed your novel, your Spirit Blade novel. I listened to it last year, still remember it vividly. Well, thank you. Are you talking about the free version of that, of the original, like, novella that was just me reading the whole thing? Or are you talking about the audio drama that had the full cast? Alright. Boy. Some low health going on here. Gosh. How low is this guy? Oh, he's pretty low. I'll bet I could get him. Yeah! Oof. Tough fight. Okay, let's head back to camp. Okay, cool. So yeah, it was the novella. Well, hey, if you like free stuff, November 7th, I'm going to be, because my fundraising made it to a certain benchmark, I'm having a free audio drama download day at spiritblade.com, so November 7th, that's this coming Wednesday. The first part of the Spirit Blade trilogy, which is the full cast audio drama, is going to be available for free at spiritblade.com. This Wednesday, spiritblade.com. Alright. Right here's good. Yes. Okay. Well, let's take a break from this. Because I have some donor requests to fulfill and some other things to do. Let me just get set up for just a minute, and then I'll come back and do those things.